Good day everyone, my name is Billy Joe Caronan from BTBT 3G Electronics. I'm here to present our statistical paper entitled The Perceptions of BTBT GFD in ALX third year students on online learning that affects intrinsic motivations in Marikina Polytechnic College. The statistical paper consists into three parts per phase. Number 1 phases is introductions, the next one is review of related studies, and last one is conclusion, result, or findings. But now we will presenting you about the introductions. So in introduction of this study, the main objective of this research is to determine the perceptions of students on online learning that affect intrinsic motivation to students, especially the major of GFD and ALX of Marikina Polytechnic College. The populations of interest in learning about is the students of third year, GFD and ALX, with the populations of 35 with sample of 20 respondents in GFD and 15 respondents in ALX, which are used randomly selected. A variety of statistical methods have been used to determine the perceptions of students on online learning. The researcher used non-parametric tests, especially Wilkinson-Rank sum, to test the null hypothesis. The method of getting the data are in a form of survey questionnaire via Google Forms with a 5 Likert scale of agreement. So, as you can see in the table, this is the 5 Likert scales of agreement. The highest one is 5, which is strongly agree, and the lowest one is 1, which is the strongly disagree.
My name is Alter Refugio, and I will be discussing the statement of the problem and the null hypothesis. Specifically, the study seeks to answer the following questions. What are the perceptions of the two groups of respondents on challenging course materials so that they can learn new things on intrinsic motivation? 2. What are the perceptions of two groups of respondents on the if having the opportunity in online class to choose class assignments, they will choose the assignments that they can learn from even if they don't guarantee a good grade? 3. What are the perceptions of two groups of respondents on trying to make their assignments turn out perfectly for satisfaction? 4. What are the perceptions of two groups of respondents on if they feel stressed when they are doing activities in this setup? 5. What are the perceptions of two groups of respondents on if they feel satisfied when they overcome a challenge in this setup? 6. What are the perceptions of two groups of respondents on teachers' application of online learning in teaching being not useful? 7. What are the perceptions of two groups of respondents on using online learning is more interesting than the traditional method? 8. What are the perceptions of two groups of respondents on being willing to learn through using online learning? 9. Is there a significant difference in the perceptions of the two groups of respondents on the effects of online learning to the students' intrinsic motivation? The null hypotheses of the study are H0, the perception between the two groups of respondents that affecting online learning to the students' intrinsic motivation are equivalent. H1, the perception between the two groups of respondents that affecting online learning to the students' intrinsic motivation are different.
Good day everyone, my name is Michael S. Romero from BTBT 3G, major in Electronics Technology. My assigned topic is Phase 2, Review of Related Literature, short RRL. We use one RRL in this study. So with this one, the study of Mienzi and Sibelen 2021 titled Factors Influencing ELF Students. Motivation in Online Learning, a qualitative case study, stated that those educators and students have been left with feelings of uncertainty as as a result of COVID health crisis, and the online courses in this environment were established on short notice. Many questions about the efficiency of online teaching, as well as its effects of teachers and students, arose in this climate of uncertainty. The case study research design used a qualitative research methodology that was adopted in this review study as the scope of case study in based on a phenomenon that is investigated deeply in its real context. The study was also designed as cross-sectional research because it was implemented at one time as aim was not to be investigate to change in the variables of over a period. In order to explore students' participation, this related study used semi-structured interviews or SSI, where conducted and creating assignments we are given to students on the topic of advantages and disadvantages of online education that has connection in their overall motivation. According to the result, extrinsic and intrinsic motivation were shown to be lower in online education when compared to face-to-face education, with the researchers attributing lack of connection with classmates and lectures for students, lack of motivation in online classes or courses. The study of Messi and Sebelen is parallel to the present study as they both want to know extrinsic and intrinsic motivation of the students with online learning. However, they are different. For the present. The study is focused on electronics students, while the review of focus of students is on origin of language. Also, this study uses qualitative methodology, wherein the researcher's paper uses quantitative methodology. Additionally, this study is different in terms of research design that they use because of Messi and Sebelen 2021. They use a case study research design qualitative research methodology, while in current research they use a descriptive design or quantitative research.
I'm Martin Balgua, and I'm going to present the result of our study. Statement of the problem number 1. What are the perception of two groups of respondents on challenging course materials so that they can learn new things on their intrinsic motivation? For the decision, as a computer t-value of 199 is higher than the critical W0.025 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. In conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim that the perception of two groups of the respondent are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 2. What are the perception of two groups of respondents on the if having the opportunity on online class to choose class assignment? They will choose the assignment that they can learn from even if they don't guarantee a good grade. For the decision, as a computed t-value of 134.5 is higher than the critical W0.25 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. In conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim that the perception of two groups of respondents are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 3. What are the perception of two groups of respondents on trying to make their assignment turn out perfectly for satisfaction? For the decision, as a computed t-value of 121 is higher than the critical W0.05 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. The conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim. The perception of the two groups of respondents are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 4. What are the perception of two groups of respondents on if they feel stress when they are doing activities in this setup? For the decision, as a computed t-value of 148.5 is higher than the critical W0.25 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. The conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim that the perception of the two groups of respondents are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 5. What are the perception of two groups of respondents on if they feel satisfied overcome a challenge in this setup? For the decision, as a computed t-value of 159 is higher than the critical W0.025 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. In conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim that the perception of two groups of respondents are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 6. What are the perception of two groups of respondents on teachers' application of online learning and teaching being not useful? For the decision, as a computed t-value of 196.5 is higher than the critical W0.025 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. In conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim that the perception of two groups of respondents are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 7. What are the perception of two groups of respondents on using online learning is more interesting than the traditional method? For the decision, as a computed t-value of 195.5 is higher than the critical W0.025 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. In conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim that the perception of the two groups of respondents are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 8. What are the perception of the two group respondents on being willing to learn through online learning? For the decision, as a computed t-value of 204 is higher than the critical W0.05 value of 91. The statistical decision is not to reject the null hypothesis 0. In conclusion, there is no sufficient evidence to support the rejection of the claim that the perception of two groups of respondents are equivalent. Statement of the problem number 9. Is there a significant difference in the perception of the two groups of respondents on the effect of online learning to the students intrinsic, and motivation. In conclusion, based on the table of summary, the overall results are failed to reject the null hypothesis 0, meaning there is no significance difference on the perceptions of the two groups of respondents on the effect of online learning to the student intrinsic and motivation.
I'm Jovic Santos, and I'm going to present the findings of our study. So based on the results of the study and data gathered, the perception of BTVT GFD and ELX third-year students on online learning that affects intrinsic motivation are mostly equivalent and failed to reject the null hypothesis. Both groups of respondents have similar perception on choosing challenging course materials so that they can learn new things on their intrinsic motivation, which is mostly neutral. Next is that both groups of respondents have similar perception, being neutral on if having the opportunity in online class to choose class assignments. They will choose the assignments that they can learn from, even if they don't guarantee a good grade. Furthermore, both groups of respondents have similar perception, being strongly agree on trying to make their assignments turn out perfectly for their satisfaction. Additionally, both groups of respondents have similar perception, being neutral on if they feel stress when they are doing activities in this setup. Both groups of respondents have similar perception, being neutral on the perception of two groups respondents on if they feel satisfied when they overcome a challenge in this setup. Also, both groups of respondents have similar perception, being neutral on teachers' application of online learning in teaching being not useful. Moreover, both groups of respondents have similar perception, being neutral on using online learning is more interesting than the traditional method. And lastly, both groups of respondents have similar perception, being agree on being willing to learn through using online learning. In conclusion, the perception of both groups of respondents are that these problems tackled are not significant different from each other and quite equivalent from one at another, meaning they are both group of respondents sharing the same problems. Experience other factors are affecting their intrinsic motivation when they are using online learning setup. It also means that if their intrinsic motivation is affected, their quality of work on academics might result in a low quality. The researchers also want to recommend, based on the findings, that the institution should boost intrinsic motivation on students by giving them a reward that is looking forward to a satisfying one, and that they should look into these problems that affecting motivation so that they can have an action that will solve this. Thank you so much and God bless.